Well, the 2024 U.S. presidential contest is in its final stretch.
Thank you very much, Wisconsin. God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you.
At a rally in Milwaukee last night, former President Donald Trump told the crowd that he'll represent all Americans if elected and encourage voters not to be complacent. And just a couple kilometers away, Vice President Kamala Harris held a rally at a high school in Milwaukee at a suburb there. Rapper Cardi B was there to support her. Harris is also urging voters to make their voices heard. For more on this final push ahead of the election, I'm joined by CTV political analyst Eric Ham. Thanks for joining us here live on CP24. It's a big next couple of days. We understand that, as we just mentioned there, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, their roots today kind of mirror each other. So what is the strategy for both candidates right now?
Right now, over these next 72 hours, it's all about turnout and trying to maximize their base to either continue to vote early. Now, early voting is going to close beginning tomorrow. And then it's all about what happens on actual election day when people actually have to go to the polls and vote. Now, we're looking at some numbers in the state of Georgia. Already more than 1 million African Americans have voted there, but that is slightly down from 2020. And so there should be some pause of alarm and concern for Kamala Harris in the state of Georgia. We know she's made that a key focal point of her election, a strategy. It's a key battleground state. Joe Biden won it in 2020. And so she's got to try to find a way to get those voters out to the polls between now and Tuesday.
And in terms of strategy, it seems you're talking about how Kamala Harris is making a couple of bets on the African-American Latino vote. With Donald Trump, he's making a bet with men in particular, black and Latino as well. But we've seen that they've both been on different types of podcasts. Donald Trump talking to mainly sports ones, Bussin' with the Boys. He's been on with Andrew Schulz on that podcast. Obviously, he was on Joe Rogan as well. So how do you think that bet is going to play off for Trump, trying to get men out there to vote?
You know, it's very interesting because right now what we're seeing in the early vote, at least, is women are far outpacing men in the early vote. In fact, it's a 10-point gap between men and women voting early. And right now, that suggests that Kamala Harris may actually be doing better because she's getting more women to turn out. And what that means is Donald Trump has to do even better and actually pull out more men, because Kamala Harris has to only win women by a much smaller margin than Donald Trump has to win men by a bigger margin if that's his bet. But right now, what we're seeing is that women are really, really going gangbusters in this election. And we know that in both 2020 as well as in 2016, it was Donald Trump who did much better with white women in particular than either Biden or Hillary Clinton. So if that still holds for Donald Trump, then this could actually be a very good election for him if, in fact, those women are actually breaking towards Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris.
And who is a group that Kamala really needs to focus on to try to get them out? Because I was listening to a podcast. I'm telling you, because you're out there, you're boots on the ground. I have to listen to podcasts, try to understand what's going on here. It was with the New York Times just saying, and it was talking about how particularly African-American men aren't really picking up what Kamala Harris is putting down right now. So how does she try to convince them to come out and vote for her?
You know, I think that's something that we have heard, that Donald Trump has been able to actually break in with Latino men as well as with African-American men. But there's another group that's not actually getting the attention that perhaps they should, and that is the Asian vote. And we know the Asian vote is actually voting at a higher rate so far in the early vote than African-Americans combined, men and women. And so that's typically been a subsection of the vote that has actually gone overwhelmingly Democratic. And so if Kamala Harris can actually increase her turnout, particularly not just Asians, but also South Asians, we know she is of Indian descent. And so if those are two groups she can do very, very well with, then what that would mean is she won't have to rely so heavily on African American men, because we have to remember African American men still are only about 5% of the total percentage of the overall voting electorate, whereas white women actually make up more than 30%, closer to 34%. So what Kamala Harris is hoping to do is if she can actually boost turnout among Asian voters, that would actually lower her dependence on actual African American men to actually go her way.
You know, it's kind of funny because I'm half Korean, full disclosure, and we always find that for some reason we're overlooked in multiple polls when it comes to Asians. And, you know, what about us? Where do we factor in? And there's a lot of us, and we could definitely help it both in America and in Canada when it comes to winning any election. And also Donald Trump focusing a lot on rural communities. Is that kind of an empty priority right now? Because as long as if you lose the suburbs, if you lose the cities, it doesn't really matter if you get all the rural vote. Is that true?
Well, you know, Republicans have always done very, very well in rural areas. In fact, going all the way back to Richard Nixon, they've done very well. And it's typically been the rural areas have gone for Republicans, urban areas have gone for Democrats. Where the elections have actually really begun to change is with the suburbs. And if you can get many of those soccer moms to actually support you, that's where you can actually build a winning coalition, which is why we're seeing both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris vie very aggressively for that suburban soccer mom vote.
Well, that's what you get. I guess happy wife, happy life. And yeah, I guess that plays a part in this election, no doubt. Okay, well, CTV political analyst Eric Ham, thank you so much. You're going to be vital in the next couple of days for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.